Do your knees, hips, or lower back hurt when you try to stand up from a chair like this? Or when you do a squat like sitting down in a chair? Well, there's a good reason for this. And today, I want to show you how to do the perfect squat. I've helped thousands of people eliminate their knee pain when they're standing up from a chair by teaching you the same things that I'm going to teach you in this video. So follow along as we go, and I'll teach you all of the details of the foot, the knee, the hip, the core, and even the upper body on how to do a squat perfectly so you don't end up hurting yourself. And for number one, we're going to focus on the feet. So how do we focus on the feet? Before we even stand up from a chair, what we want to focus on is, are our feet active and are they in the right position? So what does that mean? To start, we want to put our foot down on the ground, spread our toes wide like this, and start by gripping the ground with our toes. When we grip the ground with our toes, our feet are now active, which is going to give us stronger ankles, stronger knees, stronger hips, better balance, and will help strengthen the feet as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind is to try and keep an even balance between your big toe side of your foot and your pinky toe side of your foot as you do this movement, and keep the weight mostly on the heels, about 70% on the heels. We don't want the weight too far to the inside. We don't want the weight too far to the outside. Otherwise, it'll end up impacting your knee, your hip, or your lower back somewhere down the line. Now, beyond that, we also want to focus on the arch of the foot. So I'm going to move over here to show you so you get a better view. So as we grip the ground with the toes and we squeeze, you'll notice the arch lifts up off the ground. So if you're having trouble activating your arches, practice this first before you even do a squat or standing up from a chair. Grip the ground with the toes, try to activate the arch by shortening the ball of your foot towards your heel. If you keep your feet active like this the whole time, again, this is going to strengthen your feet and it's going to help support everything else along the way. Also, we want to make sure the feet are slightly outside of our hip width. So if I draw some lines straight forward out from my hips and drop those lines down, that's probably going to be about where my heels need to be. And then from there, we're going to turn our toes outward slightly, and we can play around with that position. Sometimes people feel more comfortable with their toes turned out more. Sometimes people feel more comfortable with their toes turned out a little bit less. So play around with that and see which position feels good for you. All right, now that we've focused on the feet, let's go to the next step, which is focusing on the knees. So when we focus on the knees, there's one important rule that's more important than all the other rules when it comes to making sure that your knees feel good in the squat. And that is, make sure your knees are going the same direction as your toes. So how do we do this? When I look down at my thigh bone right here, if I imagine drawing a line out from my thigh bone like this, and I look down, that line should go straight over my toes, pointing the same direction as my feet. If at any point during a squat or standing up from a chair, my knee caves in like this, I'm putting rotational and lateral pressure on my knee joint, which can wear down my meniscus, hurt my tendons and ligaments, and cause knee pain and inflammation. So making sure the knee is going the same direction as the toes the entire time is incredibly important when we're doing the squat. A really helpful tip for this, and this is what that person on the call was really excited about, was imagine if somebody was pushing in on your knees like this and you were pushing out against their hands. That's going to help you activate the muscles on the sides of the thigh, and more importantly, the muscles in the hip that are your hip external rotators that help rotate your thigh bone outward, which helps stabilize the knee and take the pressure off the knees. So you can even try that right now, putting your hands on the outsides of your knees, push out against them, and feel the muscles on the outside of the hips firing. We want to feel those muscles active the entire time as we do the squat. All right, now that we've focused on the feet and the knees, let's focus on the hips and then the core before we stand up from this position. So when it comes to the hips, a lot of people end up putting too much pressure on their knees and not enough of the load on their hips. Our hips and our glutes and our hamstrings are so much stronger than our quads and our knee joint. So especially if you have knee pain, it's really important to focus on putting most of the load on the hips. Now the difference between a squat that's focused on the knees and a squat that's focused on the hips is this. Most people will stand up, they'll bring their knees forward over their toes, and this is going to put the majority of the pressure on the knees. If I go to stand up like this, it's going to take a lot more pressure and strength from my quads and my knees than it will from my hips. So instead of doing that, to set this position up, we want to bow forward from the hips while keeping our back nice and flat. So it's not about rounding your back forward like this, it's about core tight, bow forward from the hips, and now you should feel a stretch coming through the hamstring and the glutes. And those are the muscles we want to feel engaging us as we stand up from the bottom of a squat or from a chair and as we extend our hips fully. So instead of feeling the quads do all of the work, we want to bow forward, press into the heels, active feet. We want to feel the hips doing the majority of the work, especially these powerful glute muscles on the back of the body, okay? So once we've set up our position where we're hinging through the hips, weights mostly on the heels, gripping the ground with the toes, knees going over toes, a little bit of external pressure to activate those glutes even more. The last step is to take a big breath in to your belly and squeeze your core muscles. My favorite way to teach this to create a lot of stability in your core to help protect your lower back is to take a big breath in, cough a little bit, and hold the cough like this. And you can feel your core doing the type of tension that we want you to have to protect the lower back. Let's just practice. Inhale, tighten down the core. You can use your hands either on your knees or out front for a counterbalance. Bow forward from the hips, keeping your core tight. Press into the heels, extend the hips, stand nice and tall. As we go down, we inhale, and we can rest in the chair at the bottom. And we can take another inhale if we need to, and stand up again. Squeezing the core tight, making sure that we're bowing forward from the hips, we're pushing our butt back on the way down, our knees are going over our toes, and our feet are active. When you follow these steps of focusing on the feet, making sure the knees are going the same direction as your toes, making sure that we're loading through our hips, and making sure we have a nice flat back, neutral spine, and an active core, and a good breathing pattern, then this will help you do the squat in a way that feels pain-free. So give this a shot and let us know in the comments below. Did this make your squat feel a whole lot better? We're curious to see how this affected you. If you want workouts that will help you move with perfect form and feel great in your body, then download the WeShape app by clicking the link below. Otherwise, another thing people often struggle with is going up and down the stairs pain-free. If you want to learn how to do that with perfect form, watch this video right here.